As always, timestamps exist, but this is gonna be a more casual gold chip run, if for no other reason than I want to complete the special missions. But yes, I am still training for the Gemini Cup. There are things happening, and I will only do my best. If it really comes down to the wire, I will do I'll probably do a 1-ace Gemini Cup team, but we'll see what happens. So, but just to prepare myself though, because I don't want to use the guest run here, I will... Oh my goodness, I'm going crazy. Nope, we want to use this Super Creek. I'm trying to get some longs, basically. It would be nice to get double 3-star longs, but I don't think... yeah. So, we'll see. Man, the Mile inheritances are gonna absolutely destroy me. But otherwise, let's just get this started. I don't think I'm gonna do anything too fancy here, although I am going to run a borrowed Super Creek. Where question mark? Borrowed Super Creek? But anywho, yeah, let's get into it. I'll speak more after the timestamp starts. Oh goodness, game, please load. But as we get into the run here, I'm also just going to go through what I'm doing for training again. It's not anything different from the last episode, but because I'm trying to keep in mind basically Aoba Sho. Aoba Sho is the race I'm trying to do here. Also going to go through basically what I do. I do incorporate a lot more rest in my training than one would normally suspect, unless the game just decides not to give me anything. But if I'm not running any wits cards, I tend to rest a lot more frequently. But I do recognize, and I'm also just basically going to go over... I should have mentioned this during the timestamp, but inheritances are pretty important. Sparks are pretty important. If that wasn't already apparent, already. Now my other stats suffer for it usually. If I'm trying to focus speed and stamina, and I don't really do a lot of scrimmages or practice races through room matches. Period. That's the end of the sentence. So, what ends up happening is I'm kind of just gauging based on my analysis of the race we're doing. For Gemini Cup. This is for Gemini Cup specifically. But it's going to apply to pretty much the dozens of Champions Meet races in the future anyway. And I've already kind of taken a laid-back stance on it. Again, I'm trying to train for at minimum 2 aces. Really would like to do 3, but I know that's not going to be possible from the Gemini Cup, which is about a weekish away. Maybe, I think, a little more than a week last I checked. But either way, that doesn't mean I'm not trying to do other things in general. And really, what I should be trying to do is get... I'm trying to remember while I'm also training here. Also, I just want to make sure I'm doing a thing. Okay, yeah, I am. I have yet to get 9-star stamina Musume, basically. And preferably, I would like at least 2 for myself, but that's not always going to be possible, because without certain Musume that I have, or without getting certain Musume, or just even getting them to 3-star potential, yeah, bad things tend to happen to me. But in the end, everyone's dealing with RNG anyway, whether it's through trying to train horses, or actually just winning races. And we know a few examples, primarily 2 examples, of some pretty unfortunate Group A finals races for the Taurus Cup, not including my own. Not that I was going to win anyway. Again, a short little reminder. I got 15%ed twice, on top of the stat skill gap that was already present in the race that I was in. If you want to look at it, just basically go to the race. I have timestamps in that race as well. So, yeah, it wasn't great. So, I didn't need the RNG already slapping me in the face. But it wasn't as bad as other trainers, I will agree. That certainly have more resources than I do for training their Musume. Shrug! So, that being said, I didn't do myself a lot of favors anyway, so I'm actually, as funny as it is, and to note here, I am trying to treat this Gemini Cup more seriously, as much as that makes sense. Not that I wasn't serious before, but I did, there are a lot more places to improve for the last Gemini Cup, basically. Or for the last Champions Meet race, which I should have improved upon. And I'll talk about my little thing for the Gemini Cup as we move on here. Waiting for timestamps. But yeah, for the Gemini Cup, it's more for vanity, but I did want to get a Haru Urara to 3-star potential, just so she looks nicer. But it's looking more and more likely that I have to run 2 debuffers, one of them being Haru Urara, because of my predictions for what's going to happen during this Champions Meet for Gemini Cup, basically. And the other thing I wanted to mention is, yeah, I even looked at some old, well, quote unquote, it is old footage, old videos of Japanese trainers doing their Gemini Cup. And in fact, I mean, you can find a lot of them, but it was harder to find that than the other reruns of the Gemini Cup, if that makes any sense. If it doesn't make sense, correct me, but I think some trainers will understand what I'm talking about by that. But yeah, looking for the very first Gemini Cup, everyone was kind of floundering around. Now, that's not to say they didn't know how to train. There are obviously some good things to train for. But yeah, you definitely saw Uma Musume everywhere. Whereas opposed to the global server, I mean, just be thankful that there were trainers who came before us, basically. Even though those trainers are with us here in the global server anyway. But that's another topic entirely. To speak of more importantly, yeah, basically, I mean, in a way we're floundering around. But to connect to more what I wanted to talk about for Gemini Cup, basically, I know a lot of trainers are going to be not putting in effort or skipping this Gemini Cup because of the time, not the time difference, but the amount of time basically trainers have to train their Uma Musume, whether it's making aces or making parents or both, or making maybe even making debuffers, although that's an easier time for most trainers, that's easier to do. But the overall thesis statement is that a lot of trainers are not going to be basically training more aces is what I'm trying to say. Now, it's not to say it's going to be any easier. Obviously, everyone's still going to be trained to win, but compared to the future champions meetings, yeah, you're not going to see as much, especially for me too. Even though I do like Gold Ship anyway, so I have better odds just in general, but my training can definitely make things worse. So, pain. But anywho. Otherwise, again, this is more how I'm training. You should actually train like I do. You should add in more wits training. But it really depends on who you're training as well, because the Uma Musume that you train can affect how easy or difficult it can be to get the things you want. Another way that I've thought about before, which I really should mention, because it's pretty close to how I believe training in Uma Musume goes, aside from hoping for sparks, is that you're flipping a coin and trying to call it right like 9 to 10 times in a row. That's essentially what you're going for a lot of the time, and that's not what even include... Oh, well, that does include training for sparks, but really... it's a lot harder. I would say it's a lot harder because you're trying to get the sparks you want if you're training a parent, but 2, you're also hoping that a lot of skills appear for you to pick up for your Uma Musume, especially if she's the ace. But even for parents, you want to pick up skills to try and inherit those skills. And on top of that, you're trying to win you're trying to complete your scenario successfully, because that can become a spark that gets passed down, which overall equals more stats for your Uma Musume. But then, as you move on to training an ace, you have to hope for everything to line up as well. So basically what you're doing for your parents is you have to double those odds. So if there's, say, a 0.2% chance for you to make the parent that you want, there's another 0.2% chance to get the ace you want. Probably even harder than that. That's what I mean by you're flipping a coin a lot. Because you're trying to, say you want to get 600 stamina and 600 power for a parent to try and get sparks. That's already one coin flip that you're doing. It's less than a coin flip, but I think you get the point I'm trying to make here. Yeah, you're trying to flip a coin into flipping a coin, and you're trying to call that coin right pretty much a lot of times in a row. That's essentially how I view a lot of Uma Musume. Now, that being said, that's not saying that there aren't ways to make the odds better or to make smarter decisions, but yeah, that's just, I feel, a lot of how Uma Musume goes. And that's not even including the race as well. But the race is something that you have, as funny as it sounds to say, you have more control over because it's the accumulation, it's the result of all your training. A lot of your racing results in a vacuum are going to be reflective of how efficiently you train your Uma Musume. So, that being said, and again, at this point, let's play devil's advocate, kind of, where people might say, well, Jordan, if you're just playing a big RNG simulator by training your Uma Musume, where's the fun in that? And to a certain extent, you would be right. But the reason we do is because there is still some strategy involved. Now, is it the best? It's still a gacha. Yes, it is still largely a gacha based on the gacha system in place. But that doesn't take away from the, well, I guess the enjoyment of a training simulator. Because the game is effectively free. I am a free-to-play as well, so aside from any pure cosmetics, and by cosmetics, for those who don't understand, there are wedding version Air Groove and Mayano Top Gun out right now, but they do function differently, so they do affect gameplay. So what I mean by is, if I were to spend if anyone spends money on pure cosmetics, I would still call them a free-to-play, even though they're not. By that term, yes, they're not playing for free anymore because they've spent money, but you get what I mean. There's no... When I'm looking at whether or not someone's a free-to-play, I determine that based on whether or not they paid any money to get any advantage, even as small as it might be. Shrug. By the way, Wits at 100 at the moment, but I don't often train Wits. I will train it probably once or twice during very bad turns. And the Wits training has to have, like, at minimum 2 supports, but really 3. So that's the only time I train. As we actually can get into the topic of position keeping, although I would probably want to pull up a source before I start talking about that, just to be sure. Also, it's here I realize, okay, we're in April 2nd, so we do want to race in the Aoba show here. Which is going to affect us a little bit, but... actually, no, will it? Yeah, well, it won't it? Well, anywho, let's just pick up Go Home Specialist because we did not grab Swinging Maestro, or we did not learn Swinging Maestro yet. So, yeah. Basically, getting 1 gold stamina recovery will help you out immensely in your scenario. If there's anything to take away, it's that. But, if nothing else, yeah, let's just watch this race. And the only races I usually watch during scenario mode for these videos is probably is most likely going to be the finals for URA. Unless, of course, I get close to 3-clocking a run, then we watch races because things. But otherwise, we should knock this out of the park. Although, if you get blocked, you're blocked. I did want to make a video talking about that, just as a little fun video, but we'll see if I ever do that, because I'm busy with other stuff. But anywho, I think I have it here. But yeah, we can talk about position keeping while the game thinks about loading and we look at this race. So, position keeping, or another way to say it, because this is the wider statement, is that a lot of the RNG involved in, say, a stronger Musume or a stronger trainer losing to a trainer that may not have as much or may not have the odds going for them is essentially the first 66% of a race. Because of how it works out. To keep in mind, I'm like 99.99% sure of this, but your speed stat does not affect you anywhere except for the later half of the race, which means at the beginning parts of the race, a lot of emphasis lies on the other stats, like power and wits, but also your skills, so that you can position yourself better, because your skills do affect your Musume's, well, velocity primarily, but they affect your speed and where she'll be during races. So, as I think I've mentioned this before, we'll say it again, at least for posterity, unless I'm just completely wrong, then we can just laugh at myself in the future. But basically, the first half of the race is all about positioning. Your Musume is trying to get into a good position for the last part of the race, whether she's a front runner who's trying to stay in front. And so therefore, the first half of the race is her staying out as far as front as she deems fit. Which is why having 2 front runners is normally to your benefit as a front runner, or you're an end closer trying to get into position for the middle part of the race, and then getting into position during the middle part of the race for the last part of the race, and that involves not getting blocked. So, yeah, and that's the tragedy of all end closers, and certainly late surgers to some extent. It also depends on the exact proportion of girls in their roles during races. So if you have like 1 front runner and 6 pace chasers, running an end closer can look a little riskier, especially if she decides to try and cut through the inside and she gets blocked. So, shrug. That being said, there is still an imaginary width of the race in which you might think, oh, the width looks like, if you see on screen, like they have so much space over to the wide side, but really they don't. So there's only so much space that they have to pull out front, and so if they swing outer, they have to expend their energy and stats, and the stats have to be high enough to pull them forward over Musume. But hey, as we lose our stamina at the end there, I was right about that, by the way. I just off myself. I'm not saying that, oh, I'm smart or anything. I just noticed that the animations change. Your Musume will kind of rear back and stop, leaning forward as she races, and that's how you know that someone usually runs out of stamina at the last part. But otherwise, yeah, position keeping is a very important part. The other part of that is also basically your wits. Your wits plays a factor in your, well, as to be expected, like just logically. The wit stat plays a factor in your Musume deciding whether or not she moves forward correctly, I guess so to say. I know it'll put me at 3 races, but we have to race if there's Tokyo Yushin. No, yeah, good. Just making sure, why do I not remember where these races are? But as Goldchip yells at me and I move forward with my life, it's not the biggest effect, but if you have an extra 300 wits, you may see a difference in your Musume's performance. It's not always guaranteed, but it certainly makes things better in a vacuum. Essentially, I think it's every 2-3 seconds. Let's assume even every 3 seconds, your Musume makes a decision based on if she's fallen far behind, or really if she's fallen behind for non-frontrunners. So if she falls behind, if she's too far from whoever's in first place, she looks ahead and she says, oh, do I have the wits to decide whether I want to speed up or not? If she decides not to, you fail the check because you don't want to be like 20 lengths away from whoever's in first as an end closer, as I look to the side and see something interesting. But it's an insect. But the higher your wits is, the higher the chance that your Musume makes the right decision to be like, hey, I actually want to be only 10 lengths away, so that's kind of important. And so she decides to run speed up and try to get within 10 lengths. Now, if someone's in front of her face, then yeah, it's less likely she's going to be able to do that. But you want her to make that decision in the first place, because again, for all you know, you could be 26 lengths behind, blocked behind two layers of Musume, and you're just going to lose the race at that point. So yeah, which is pretty important for that. But at the same time, you don't want to trade off your speed or your stamina, because if you have 800 speed compared to someone's 1100 speed overall, you're not going to be able to pull forward in front of them during that, barring a miracle. But if you, and then alternatively, if you also don't have the stamina, then you're just going to run out of stamina, and yeah, you had 800 wits, but you just don't have the stamina to survive the race, and your Musume just hits her minimum speed as everyone shoots forward. Or she holds someone up, if you're lucky enough to, slow down in front of Naruto Taishin in the Gemini Cup. But that's something different that happens entirely. Even that extra half second that you block in Musume can mean a lot in the grand scheme of, a race's results, especially if you're putting it all on the line in the finals. But again, there's always RNG involved. That's just one of many moments. Late starts for frontrunners, mostly frontrunners. Getting rushed at all is effectively 15% over, like, if you're to average things out, but well, fine, I'll do power again then. But yeah, wits, if you can, I would like to put wits in, and then guts obviously to survive based on the effective stamina that your Musume has overall during a race. But that's, again, those are many things to consider that you do have to consider as you try to do your best to win a race. But anywho, could do Japan Cup here just to fill out more G1s, but I think I'm just going to forgo that in favor of stats here, just to make this scenario run and video overall a bit easier on myself. Don't let it be said that you can't run you can't run full rest methods. That being said, I would not advise it in general, but it's just what I've decided to do. Again, I'm more likely to run very few, basically a no-wits training run, if I am running no-wits cards, essentially, because I want to make the most of the cards I have. Now, if I'm running a more rainbow deck, like 2 speed, 1 power, 3 stamina for whatever reason, yeah, I might do wits training, especially if there are like 4 or 5 supports there, but aside from those moments, I'm probably not going to take them. That being said, I didn't get really anything. At this point, I'd probably just take more generic skills, really, but yeah. Lone Wolf, Slipstream, and we'll take an Outer Post Proficiency. Oh my goodness, please take it. Lag. And if nothing else, don't let it be said that I didn't finish my Batsu, because usually if I plan on breaking a Batsu, in this case doing 20 videos with gold chip training, just to throw on my channel at minimum, if I do break a Batsu like that, I'm probably gonna Batsu myself harder. Batsu, for those who don't know, meaning penalty to generalize things. But as we go through this and hopefully don't get blocked, sure. Yeah, I just assume whenever I don't win a race, you just get blocked or something. Blocked or rushed in the case of long races. Or your stamina skill doesn't proc, but that's kind of the same vein. That's mostly what from what I've seen, that's a lot of what happens. If you know your stats don't make it, yeah, that's another factor. But usually if your stats are around like 400 overall by the time you've reached Classic Gear, end of Classic Gear, you should be winning most of your races because of the buff you get. I feel like the NPCs get the buff as well, but maybe that's not true. Still, though, that's why getting blocked is so very painful. And the short way to mention that as we get to the next timestamp here, again, I wait for the timestamp, is that being blocked means that your stats are effectively limited to whoever is in front of you. So if there's a Super Creek in front of you with 600 speed at the final leg of the race, or just running at a slower rate than what your Musume usually can do, yeah, all you can do is run at that same speed until you can overtake that Musume. In my case, I mentioned Super Creek specifically because I'm usually being blocked by Super Creek, the NPC, but I mean, like, there's no other recourse. Yes, power helps. Yes, wits helps as well, indirectly, because you will... Again, like I said, in the first half of the race, your wits does play a larger factor in how your Musume positions herself, and you don't want her to be positioned stuck behind everyone or surrounded by Musume who have like 800 speed, or debuffers in general, really, for the champions meet. Which again, we have a few prominent examples of that happening. So yeah, and again, your wits can be like 400, 500. You're like, oh, my wits is high. RNG just says no, because your Musume just never makes the decision to speed up or put herself in the right position, and so you just lose. This is more prevalent for, well, this is also relevant for races with downhills, or a lot of downhills, because obviously, well, for those who don't know, your wits has a factor in helping your Musume a lot in downhills. So on downhills, your wits... The higher your wits your Musume has, the higher the chance that she makes use of that downhill correctly. Again, I'm trying to immerse myself by speaking very specific phrases. But on downhills, your wits is a large factor of whether or not you get to benefit from that downhill, essentially. And then on uphills, your power plays a factor in your speed on uphills. So yeah, those are important, but when everyone is pretty much making the same kind of Musume or same stat distribution, you're not really going to see as much of an effect. Now, sometimes you will, but those moments are few and far between because, as I will get into, and I kind of alluded to this when talking about watching other Japanese trainers with their Gemini Cup, the very first Gemini Cup. We know what's going to happen, so therefore... for the most part, a lot more trainers than not at all are going to build or train their Musume in a way where, yeah, you might want to benefit from uphills, yeah, you might want to benefit from downhills, yeah, you might want to run 800 wits, but in a vacuum, you're going to lose to trainers who train a lot more efficiently for the races they're going into. Again, not saying that it's a wrong decision, but in a vacuum, it is most likely going to be a wrong decision. I mean, let's just say that much. So, I actually want to increase my stamina here, but the power does... I want my power to increase as well. Basically, how I've been training, for the most part, at the beginning of Global Server, was correct in how I wanted to train overall. But I did change my training just to kind of test things out here and there anyway. This is energy, right? Yeah. And then the other one is energy. I barely started to remember Super Creek's events. I kind of got flabbergasted seeing three stamina friendship trainings, but hey. Which is what you want to see. Now, it gets worse than the coin. I talked about coin flips as well. Might as well. Nothing else is happening on screen. But obviously, if you hit a lot of trainings where there are many supports, especially if they're friendship training, yeah, it turns out your Musume is going to be a lot stronger in general. But that's not always going to happen because the odds of that happening are a lot lower. Even if you have three supports on the same level of Kita-san's Black Specialty Training, which, for those who don't know, increases the odds of her being on the training that is her assigned stat, in her case, Speed. But even with 3 of those, that happening, you want that to happen many times as possible, but let's say you want it to happen like 5 times in your run. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen as often, even if there is like a 16% chance that 3 supports, or each support card, say, has even a 25% chance of landing in the stat that they'll give you specialty training. Yeah, that happening 3 times in a row for all those 3 support cards, or 5 times in a row, is very unlikely to happen. So again, this is another kind of, not mental stack, but priority stack or RNG stack on top of, hey, are the skill hints that I want going to appear for me in the run? Is every single one of them going to appear? Because maybe you want 7 to 8 skills. Are you going to get the inspirations that you want during the inspiration event and early April? So again, you're hoping for RNG on top of RNG on top of RNG on top of RNG. And again, let's loop back around to, well, Jordan, see, doesn't that mean Musume, where's the fun in that? The fun is in the training simulator. I mean, otherwise, why do people play roguelikes? Like, that's... Yes, a lot more strategy likely goes into roguelikes compared to, well, setting conditions. Compared to certain training simulators. But I'm sure someone else who knows, or has a lot more knowledge on the fact, and is not kind of trying to multitask like I am, can basically make better logical points. But there are good... I assure you there are good reasons, basically. So again, you would probably roll on 68% failure rate a lot of the time, but because I'm not trying to make an ace here, I'm just trying to win scenario mode, hey. But that's another thing, that maybe you get the ace that you want, but you didn't try to hit like 2 or 3 68% failure rate trainings, which would have given you like 50 plus in a stat. Then it's like, okay, you're going to be weaker than someone who does do that successfully, because there are people who do that. There will be people who do that who succeed all 3 of those 60% failure rates. So you're going to be losing out on at least like 100 stats, which can be substantial. But hey, oh, that makes me sad. Anywho, for those who don't know, the reason why that makes me sad is that there are set handful of races here and there that you want to win for the sake of, if nothing else, getting better inspiration aptitudes, basically. But it also helps your Musume in general, just for skill points, stats, so on and so forth. But really, it's for me, it's for the legacy inspirations. But anywho, no, we'll go stamina here. Did I win Takarazuka Kinen last year? I think we did. Yeah, I think I did. Anywho, this is energy. The top one is mood, I'm pretty sure. I say this as I try to get to... I don't even remember her name. I'm not going to try to flub her name. We'll pick that skill hint up. Hopefully skill hint. But actually, there's a thing here. It always links there. I don't know why I'm going crazy. Anywho, let me try to look up this name as we go through the training here. Yeah, summer training. I could just train out right here, but we're not going to do that. So off we go. But thing. I'm doing a thing. I'm forgetting a thing. Oh, I'm going crazy. Run, hurry, speed! Yaino Mutiki. Yeah, Yaino Mutiki, I've kind of remembered her events at this point, because it's kind of important to remember them. Mostly the linked event leading to playtime's over, but that's only one of many. In fact, usually when I'm talking about remembering events, I mean the more random event, not the linked events. So anywho, I mean, if I'm saying something wrong, I'm going to be very, very sad with myself. But, for example, one of Yaino Mutiki's random events is called Firm in Plane, Yet Close to Virtue. So the top option gives you speed, plus 10 speed, but the bottom option gives you plus 1 mood and 5% power. So as we try to go for gate kept here. Okay, fine. That didn't need it, but hey. Yeah, those are the kind of events I mean. In fact, I still didn't even remember that one, but hey. The other one I kind of more remember because it's not going to help me for this Gemini Cup, but the other event is called The Will to Protect. So in Yaino Mutiki's event, The Will to Protect, there is 2 options. The top option gives you 10 stamina and 10 power, but the bottom option gives you medium corners, the skill hint, which is great if you're going for medium races, but obviously if you are training for the Gemini Cup, you don't need it, because the Gemini Cup race is a 3,200 meter Kyoto long race. If that wasn't already apparent by the fact that I said 3,200 meters. But anywho. One factor I kind of failed to consider for, which is why I'm considering running a 1 ace 2 debuffer strat, is that Yeah, running debuffers is going to really muck up the RNG. So overall, I really shouldn't be trying, or really shouldn't be trying to sweat too hard. I'll still try hard, but I shouldn't be sweating over my performance in this next Champions Meet, because everyone's going to be suffering for stamina anyway. And by that, I mean, I mentioned before in the last episode, most likely, or was it another one? Either way, I mentioned that I had to run URA. I really need to just lock... You just want to lock Narita Taishin out of Sleeping Lion, who's probably going to demolish a good at minimum 50% of the races anyway because of Encroaching Shadow, but shrug. You might as well throw in more RNG or lock out things like Sleeping Lion. Now that also locks Gold Ship. I'm pretty sure it's Gold Ship out of thing. Also, did I do this race correctly? No, Tenno Sho Autumn. It's just Japan Cup that I need to do, which I actually think I need to schedule anyway. Yeah, I do. But yeah, I have to run Haru Urara. I'm still deciding on who else I want to run as a debuffer in that case. But this is only if I don't get to... Or, no, I think... I'm pretty sure I have to run 2 debuffers, 1 ace, so I just have to gamble on the 1 ace strat. I normally don't like doing that. At some point in my strategy, whether it's Musume or other games, I usually like to gamble against myself, knowing that something is going to go wrong for me, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. We never got Swinging Maestro, that makes me really sad, but anywho, I guess we'll take Professor of Curvature. But, yeah, I do like to just go against the grain, because I know that I'm unlucky enough to fail. That being said, though, I think more than half of the situation that I'm in call for, well, if I run a more consistent strat, I would have been great, but... And I swear I'm not trying to chase the high that is, oh, see, I went against the grain, or I'm trying to be the underdog here. No, I'm actually just... I do believe in my own lack of luck, which is why I'm still considering running 2 aces. The reason to run 2 aces is that if your only ace horse, Musume, does not proc your skills, you lose, basically. Which I don't doubt there are going to be people running 2 debuffers with 1 Narita Taishin as well, but that's for people who have Narita Taishin. Basically, if I had Narita Taishin myself, I'd run 2 aces, because it'd be Narita Taishin and Gold Ship. But again, that's reserved for, and for good reason. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, inherently, but you know, if you spend money on Musume for an advantage, you should get that advantage, because that's the whole point. So if I say that I got power crept, I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm saying that literally as the objective fact. You are being power creeped by someone using the resources either in real life, or they have the resources by strong legacies and their own strong support cards. But that's another whole video I could talk about as we get close to the end of this scenario training. Now, funny enough, I could just record these videos and throw them up, but I usually like to add timestamps, which adds another 5 to 10 minutes to me uploading videos. Because again, for those who don't know, I pretty much edit, render, and upload all the videos on my own channel for the moment. I don't have my own editor or whatnot, in case you had any questions. And as I kind of snap back to Gemini Cup, yeah, this is probably close. Well, aside from my guts being so low, but that just requires more stamina training, which I would want. So my guts will normally be at like minimum 420. I actually want my guts to be at like 450, 500 really for this. Also, if you heard a sound, that was a sound of me hitting a wire. But you know, if I could get 3-star did I ever get a 3-star stamina gold chip out of this? I don't feel like I did I? I know I did out of these videos. I'm not sure though. I can't remember. Anywho, skipping race. So, as we also get our Senior Autumn crown, I forgot what the exact name is. I'm so sorry to those who are actual fans of horse racing, but I'll do my best, basically. I'll do my best, and I hope everyone does their best as well, because again, pretty much Musume, well, I do play other gachas, but I don't focus on them as much as Musume, really. Maybe one, but aside from that other one, really Musume is all I have, and then I just, you know, work. So, shrug. But anywho, yeah, so if let's just actually do some quick calculations for 10 seconds. So say I go for stamina. So if I do 30, to get my stamina to 1200, that would require 28 times 30. So 7 times 30, 210. So I'd have the guts requirement if I did enough stamina trainings. Now, that's obviously the question needing to be asked is, I always see Fujikiseki there. Fujikiseki? Oh, I'm going crazy. I'm so sorry if I flubbed the name. But either way, Basically, I would have my guts requirement if I did as much stamina trainings. But the question is if I even get those stamina trainings. But, hey. Which is another way of me saying, yeah, these 3 stamina cards, again, if I'm going through things... Even assuming I had good inheritances, my stamina would be at about 900 right now. So really the question is where I'm getting my guts. Now Gold Ship inherently thankfully has events which just grant her guts. She has 2 events that can get her 20-ish guts overall, which doesn't sound like a lot, but really you're just picking for pennies here as you're, or if we're to immerse ourselves more in Musume, you're picking for monies, but yeah, it's gonna be a struggle for me basically, especially if I don't. I think I've pretty much given up on my blue sparks as well. So, gotta cross my fingers and hope. I'm pretty sure I've already kind of analyzed this, but I was always trying to go for more speed, even though that would increase my stamina requirement. I'm pretty sure I'm only gonna get like 800 to 900 speed. Oh my goodness, 3rd place got blocked. Actually, I was supposed to watch this race. This is the finals, isn't it? If it is, I was supposed to watch. I actually should have... No, this is the semifinals. Never mind. So, as we near the finals here, and we'll watch this race if for no other reason than to actually watch a race at all. I'll leave things vertical again. I leave most of my races vertical for the sake of making thumbnails for the videos. So, yeah. Off we go. I could just make thumbnails off the horizontal races and whatnot, but So, as we just take speed training here... This is essentially how, again, pretty much rest-only little wits training method of me training my Musume, which, funny enough, I don't think I ever got a Night Owl or negative status effect event from resting, did I? So I got really lucky this run. This pretty much would have been closer to a run I would have wanted for training my ace for the Gemini Cup. But, again, another coin flip to add to the multiple, like the dozens of coin flips I already have to do if I want to train a proper horse for Gemini Cup. Shrug. Basically, something to keep in the back of my mind, as I may point out, you know, things that other trainers may be missing. It could just be that those trainers just didn't get the Musume they wanted. There is going to be a subset of trainers who just don't get the RNG, so you got to make the best of what you've got. So, as we get into this race here, aside from being blocked, nothing bad should happen. But, yeah, again, going into Gemini Cup, I know for certain, I preferably would have wanted to... I preferably would have wanted 2 racers, actually, or 2 aces. And I want to check a thing. I think I have to look for the... Yeah, I might as well just go look at the actual source. What I mean by that, as I also move my microphone, is the odds of being rushed. So, am I going crazy here? I'm kind of going crazy here. Well... Either way, I think it would be in the HP section, right? Yeah, it would be. So, no, it's not. I'm going absolutely crazy. So yeah, 300, yeah, so 300 wits. Actually, let me just calculate that one. With 200 wits, let's assume 200 wits. Let me do this calculation. So, blah, 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 as things are happening. And thankfully, my gold chip looked like she's pulling forward, so I'm just going to do this on the side. 201 times 0.1. Log 10. Take that result, which is pretty much 1.3031, with 300 wits, by the way. I'm going crazy. 6.5 divided by 1.3031. So I'm going crazy. Oh, it's +1. I'm going crazy. I made the wrong thing. So it's actually 21 log 10. 6.5 divided by 1.32222. To the power of 2. Whoops. So yeah, with 200 wits, you have an approximately 24% chance, or 24.17%. We got blocked, by the way. I look back and now I see my gold chip finally pulling forward, but it might be too late here. 2nd place. Got close, but got blocked for too long. Which means we have to clock. Yeah, off we go. We'll watch this. We'll skip to the final leg / last spurt, but yeah, 200 wits, you have an approximately 17% chance to proc getting rushed, which is not great. But as you saw, even just that's 200 wits. I had closer to 300 wits, so 300 wits is 19% chance to get rushed. And if that happens to 2 of your 3 Musume during a champions meet, yeah, the odds of that happening are 3.6%. So, 4%. I pretty much, like, I'm telling the truth when I say 15%. And again, yeah, 19%, 24%, those are largely larger odds than 15%. But to me, it makes as much difference, doesn't matter. Gold Chip trying to cut through the inside there, but then getting blocked by Taiki Shuttle. There is a way forwards here, so she can pull forward here, thankfully, but whether or not she actually does, she's trying to move to the right. She can move to the right. We have the stats for it, but yeah, thankfully, it wasn't as much of a tragedy here anymore. But anywho, as we get drop kicked here. Yeah, getting rushed ain't great. If you get rushed and you miss even just one stamina gold recovery, I think you run out of stamina during the Gemini Cup. Even with 2 gold. I have to look into that though. I mean, there's a way to kind of simulate that. There's another way to simulate that. I don't know why I'm asking the question. I haven't used this source in a long while. I really should. But basically, getting rushed is not going to be great. And if nothing else, if you get rushed, you hope that it doesn't last longer than 6 seconds. I think 6 seconds is normally the what you're hoping for, although you can be rushed for as long as 12 seconds. And if someone decides to be an absolute degenerate and bring, like, Trick Rear, well, or any of the Trick skills, or I think the other, there are some more, but basically a lot of bad things can happen. Anywho. You know what, is this just a Stamina Eater, blah, blah. We'll do Coast is Clear for giggles, and yeah, off we go. I really should not take that skill, by the way, but I'm deciding to. So, yeah, as we complete this run here, yeah, really not much else to say. I've said all that I pretty much could have updated on, and probably missed some other things I really wanted to talk about. Aside from the fact that, yes, I am using my resources on leveling the free support cards, essentially. So the event support card, the event wits, and the shop. At this point, shop thing. Oh my goodness, 2 stars then. But yeah, not much else to say at the moment. So as we end this gold chip run here, probably should just be at the end screen here already. Not really much else to go over, and I will consider. I don't know if I'll move clubs. I guess we'll find out. Because again, if nothing else, first, if you're listening to this part still as a newer trainer, now is pretty much after you're getting your monthly rewards from your club is pretty much the prime time to switch clubs. Because you need to be in the club long enough to, you need to be in the club long enough to get the monthly rewards. So that's why, if you see people leaving close to the start of a new month, that's the reason why. Because most trainers know that you have to switch clubs and be in a club for long enough for it to matter. But anywho, as we end on pretty much the memed song of the world, until we get Teo and Gold Ship, yeah, not much else to say. If you're sitting here at the end screen, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. I have more Batsu videos I have to do.